Social media told me that we could have a $15,000 wedding in Italy. So I thought I was being generous when I extended our budget to $30,000. We spent $60,000. For some people, that's an average wedding cost or a low budget cost for them. But for me, going into it thinking I would spend only $15,000 to $30,000 to then turn around and spend 60, that was shocking. I'm going to tell you how that happened, why it happened, what our planners did and didn't do, and everything I wish someone would have told us before we signed a single contract. I will also be dropping several tips throughout this video so that you can make better informed decisions and save yourself a whole lot of money. Also, none of this was spent on a credit card. It was all cash. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand why that hurts so much. If you haven't watched the full wedding story video, go watch that first. It'll be linked in the description box down below. But the short version is, we decided to have an intimate ceremony in Italy because it was something that felt personal and intentional for us rather than performative. And if you're planning a wedding in a country you don't live in, don't speak the language, or don't have family in, hiring a wedding planner just felt like the right decision. But there are things that I wish I knew then that I know now that I would hope that someone who finds this video finds it informative and really helpful. So I hope this video either saves you money, heartbreak, or both. We interviewed several planners, and we thought someone who was based in Italy, spoke the language, and sourced all the vendors would be a great investment, especially for my husband and I, as we were working full-time, growing in our careers, and also there's about a 9-hour time difference depending on the time of year. And for that, we really thought we were on track with a $30,000 budget. Also, just so you know, I'll be switching between euro and dollars throughout this video. And I want you to know that most of these prices included a VAT tax. That's the same VAT tax that you might see on some of your luxury goods when you're shopping throughout Europe. Just know that when you're paying for vendors, you don't get that VAT tax refunded back like you would with buying a luxury good. First saving tip, we considered other locations for our wedding outside of Italy. That included Portugal, Mexico, very popular, affordable micro wedding options that I saw throughout social media. If Italy is your main dream, consider picking options outside of the major cities that people often travel to. That way you still have a very photographable experience at a fraction of the cost. An additional tip to this, an option that we considered were all-inclusive resorts because they bundle in the package your venue, the vendors, and a planner all in a single price. And that's a really good way to have a destination wedding at an affordable price. Let's talk numbers, and I'm actually gonna need my wine, because the most helpful thing I can do here is be transparent. We went in with a budget of about $30,000 for about 30 people. It seemed like they were really into it, but now looking back on it, I think they might have laughed a little and completely set it aside because, again, by the end of it, we spent well over what we thought we wanted to. And that's one of the most toxic things I think there is about the wedding industry, is that people will tell you to expect to spend about 2 to 3 times more than what you're planning to spend. Because by the time we got our final invoice, it was 52,000 euro. Some of that was our choices. We upgraded things, and they were kind enough to gift us cold sparks because the wedding venue didn't allow in-air fireworks. I really wanted to splurge on the fireworks, again, with a $30,000 budget. But that was a beautiful touch by the planners to include that for us. We appreciated it. But some of it felt like our budget was never really taken into consideration to begin with. Like the $30,000 was acknowledged and then set aside. And sending payments throughout the year made it feel like, oh yeah, it's just being taken care of. We're paying in installments. Very layaway for your wedding. I remember scheduling a call with our planners about halfway through and saying like, hey, I think the ball's rolling away from us right now. Like, we're getting a little carried away. And we were met with a lot of, oh, no worries, it's fine, which I still think a lot about since then. So here's where the money actually went. Let's get into the real budget breakdown. Starting off with the planning fees. Our planners charged about 5,000 euro for a planning fee and an additional 3,500 euro for accommodations, excursions, and pre-party planning. That was a separate package. And they also included additional costs for their flights to see the venue because, again, we did not have time or did not make the time to go out to Italy to go see the venues. So they did that for us. And then they also had costs for their entire wedding team to come to the venue and work for the wedding day and pre-party. For a little bit of context and additional options, another planner quoted us $3,500 US dollars, 3,500 for a partial planning where we were doing the planning mostly and we would check in with her for guidance and assistance. But we passed on that, and I definitely still don't think we would have had the time to invest that much time in contacting vendors ourselves and not having someone boots on the ground to go do the things we needed them to do. So the venue we chose was Castel Brando. It was beautiful. It was a castle on the hill in the Prosecco Hills of Italy, very historic, a UNESCO World Heritage Site at that. We spent about €7,320. That's after the VAT tax. Before VAT tax, it was about €6,000 for the venue itself. With food and catering, we chose from their winter menu. And though we got married on the first day of spring, we had to choose from the winter menu because it wasn't available to us yet. I was really hurt about that because the spring menu had hot wings. I love hot wings, and I didn't know Italians mess with hot wings. That would have been good. But the food was still absolutely delicious, and they gave us so much food. The price for that was about €5,000 for our aperitivo and wedding dinner, and $500 for the staff. And then the night before for our welcome party, it was a pizza party. Again, so much food, so much good food. That was $1,200 for the guests and $360 for the staff. For our save the dates and website, this is where we went digital. And we thought we'd be saving money with that, or we were encouraged to by our planners as well. We spent about €400 for an illustration of our save the date and for what was supposed to be our wedding website. Quick saving tip here, that is a good call to go with e-invitations and save the dates because you don't have to pay the marked up price tag for wedding stationery. But I think there could have been more savings there. And that's where I feel like my planners and I didn't align, or where we first had our moment of friction, because not to say I was better than their graphic designer. I just felt like that was a creative moment where I could have taken the lead and created something very similar to what we got with the exact vision of what I wanted. And also, there was more friction when we saw what our wedding website originally looked like. It just wasn't up to par with what I thought I wanted or what I expressed that I wanted. And what I was met with was, this isn't a website for your guests to shop on, so it doesn't need to look like the options that I sent to them. So I ended up making my own wedding website on Zola, and I sent out invites through there. And I sent out physical copies to some of our favorite people. For the photographer, we actually saved significantly because our photographer was our engagement shoot photographer. I don't know if you can see our pictures back here, but she offered to shoot the wedding with just flights and accommodations, which was a huge save for us, and we are so grateful. So for her, we ended up spending about €375 for her room at the castle, $800 or so, maybe more, for her round trip flights, and 2 additional nights in Venice at around €200. So roughly about $1,375 total for our photographer. And we worked with her before. We already trusted her, so that worked out great. The videographer. Now, the videographer was €3,100 plus $750 for travel, $410 for their room, and they were a team of 2. They captured us briefly the night before at our pizza party, but mostly just the wedding day itself. Quick saving tip here, if you're working with a tighter budget, consider hiring a social content creator who also does photo and video so that you have an increasingly great budget saving option as well. For hair and makeup, the price for the actual hair and makeup alone was about €900 for the package I chose. Her travel and accommodations came out in total to around €1,150. That included her airport transportation to and from the castle, which was about €480, plus an additional like €60 for food. Saving tip here, if you're skilled enough to do your own hair and makeup, you can save at least €900, more than I did. Let's talk about the DJ. The DJ was €2,480. He played music from his iPad. We were told to make playlists for music that we wanted to hear during our cocktail hour or aperitivo, at our dinner, and at the after party. So we took the time to make some playlists. Come to wedding day, at our pre-wedding, that music was played from a playlist before we had our violinist and harpist come. I'll tell you that cost later. It was played from an iPad. The cocktail hour, the playlist was played from the iPad. At dinner, the playlist was again played from the iPad, and dinner was so long, so many courses, that the iPad playlist repeated at least 3 times. I heard songs multiple times, and our guests were like, "Didn't we just hear that?" And I got up and I went to go to where the staff were eating or taking a break to ask if the music could be changed. I don't know where he was at the time, but I think I had to ask twice. It wasn't until the after party where he decided to play live music, but it was none of the music from any of the playlists we chose. So that does upset me a little bit. I think he was also in charge of our lights and sound system, which was €3,380. So he was paid around €6,000 to play music from an iPad, majority of the wedding, 25% his own music. And our after party didn't even go that late because we were whooped. If your music is gonna come from an iPad, let it be your own iPad and go ahead and save yourself about €6,000. Or really vet your vendors and get a reputable DJ who, yes, he brought all the equipment, the lighting, the sound system, but just make sure he's not going to be playing from an iPad for 75% of your wedding. But the music option we did like was the violinist and harpist. And I really wish we had more time with them. Like, if they could have played through our aperitivo, that would have been beautiful. They were about €1,150 and worth every cent, or every euro. Florals. Florals were €6,400 for florals and logistics. So people moving the florals from our wedding ceremony to our cocktail hour into our wedding dinner. And we hear that's a good way to save if you're reusing and repurposing your flowers throughout the event. I think some of our flowers were fresh flowers. I know my bouquet was, but it might have been a mix also to save for budget. I was also captivated once I saw the flowers in person. I can't say for sure if it was all worth it. I think the cost for wedding florals is crazy, but I hear that people spend a lot more, like 5, 6, 7 digits on flowers. Welcome bags. €100 per welcome bag. Our welcome bags included a wine bottle and some wine accessories like a bottle opener and bottle stop, and the event's itinerary, a physical stationery for that. Those cost us about €200 for the stationery that was in that bag and the stationery they used for the wedding ceremony. But €100 per wedding bag. And not only was it just a wine bottle, wine stopper, wine opener, the bag we saw was a beautiful sketch that would include a photo of the wedding venue on the front, and it looked like it was not embroidered in, but like incorporated in a classy way. And what we got was an ironed-on picture of the wedding venue onto a canvas bag that started cracking by the next day. I'm just glad that we took the extra bags that were there because we were leaving there with something. I'm leaving here with something. A saving tip here, if you want to do a welcome bag option, you might be better off sourcing the items on your own if you can. I think I would have saved a lot of money from spending, €3,000 for 30 guests at $100 or €100 a bag if we would have gotten the bags ourselves and maybe sourced the items. That was something that was offered to us from one of the Mexico wedding planners. She had the option of us shipping things down to her for us to include for some DIY projects and options. But figuring out the logistics of getting it to Italy was a bit more challenging. And knowing now too that the wine that was chosen in Italy cost significantly less than what we spent on the entire bag as a whole that was falling apart by the next day. I wish there was a way that we could have made something better for our guests and even included more options for the cost of what it was. My husband has an additional great saving tip of packing the bags in a separate luggage if you can, to bring that with you instead of having to worry about shipping it out. So that's where the money went. And we haven't even talked about the flights, the pre-wedding accommodations, and everything else that went into the planning process itself. That's going to be another video. Check out the next one. Be ready for that. Make sure you're subscribed. Also, like this video. Give it a thumbs up if you like what you've seen so far. I'm bearing my soul here. Please, learn something from this.
Learn something from this!
Saving tip here, too. Again, we were quoted a $3,500 option for a self-planning with full guidance tour. That lady's options are also very helpful to get a realistic expectation for what a European destination wedding can cost you and how to save. If something like that is even helpful, consider that as well. please be sure to comment down in the comments below. I will give you her information. If you have a strong organizational foundation, I think it would be really helpful for you to deal with the main logistics and then hire a day of coordinator to help you plan once you're over there and contact all the vendors so that on your day, you can just focus on being the bride. Now, let me talk about something that I've thought a lot about, how to deliver this message, because I want to be fair and I don't want to be rude or messy in any way. But I want to be honest. Our planning team was very professional in many ways. The wedding happened, Italy was beautiful, but there were moments that felt like we weren't their priority. And I don't know if it was our budget, our choices, or something else entirely, but there was something there. And it could have been that point where I thought I could have done a little bit of a better job with our wedding website. Or there was even another time before I booked with the hair and makeup artist that they provided for me to choose from. I had been doing my own research and looking at options that are out there for women who are of my skin complexion and who have worked with my type of hair before, because I wanted to be sure I didn't look a mess on my wedding day or I was offered a vendor who didn't meet those needs. I wanted a little bit more, not control, but a little bit more access, I guess, to what my options were, and also just helping out just in case it wasn't something or familiar territory for what my vendors were used to, because I didn't see anyone else on their page that looked like me. So basically, I had found someone on Instagram that I really liked her work, and I messaged my planners to tell them, like, hey, I found this lady. Could we consider her as an option? And they did not like that. I guess in a way that was overstepping, and they did not want me to reach out to vendors myself. And yes, I paid for them to do the full vendor reach out, but that was something that, if anything, I wanted to feel and look my best on my wedding day. I wanted to make sure it was going to happen. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be a bridezilla. And I'm not here to drag anyone, but I just want to say, make sure you're vetting your vendors thoroughly. When you're interviewing with these vendors, make sure you're asking them to see their work of couples that they've had with similar guest counts and similar budgets to you. These are the lessons I'm leaving you with. 1, set your budget in writing at the beginning and make sure you choose a planner who's going to check in with you at every step and say, here's what we spent and here's what we have left. And make the splurge versus savings conversations explicit from the beginning. Lesson number 2, if you want to work with outside vendors, make sure your planners are flexible with that or okay with it, and make sure that that's written into the contract, because I think now resistance to working with outside vendors might be a red flag. Lesson number 3, trust your instincts early. If something feels off during the planning process, don't hesitate to speak up, because they're not going to disappear on your wedding day. You might not pick up on them in the moment, but you'll remember them after. I don't want you leaving thinking it was all receipts and red flags, because it wasn't. It was the most beautiful day of my life, an experience that I would want to relive over and over and over and over and over again. If I had one of those movies where you just wake up and relive the same day over and over again, that would be the day. Actually, the 2 days, including the pizza party, because that was really good. That venue, whatever the cost, I would pay it again. The violin and harpist, the florals, the experience of Italy itself, the food, the beauty, everything. None of the stress touches how amazing that was. If you're planning a destination wedding and you want to talk through any of this, drop a comment down below. I'll be there to answer them. And if you want to see the 3rd video in this Italy series, make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to be talking about how we use Costco travel for our luxury honeymoon, and we use points for our flights and experienced our first business class upgrade in the next video. Make sure you're subscribed. You don't want to miss this. I'll see you there. Bye.